Hey folks, this is Jack McNeil Jr. with the Kempner Church of Christ. We've been talking about some of the, you might call, ungetoverable facts of life. There are some things that are irrefutable, they cannot be changed, and that's just, the way things are. And so as Christians, we need to learn to live in the world as it is. Now, we're striving to make the world a better place, but we also need to understand that no matter what we do, there are some things that just aren't going to change, such as the fact that life is not fair. You think about life has never really been fair. Since sin entered the world, fairness has kind of gone by the wayside. And so life's not fair. And so we understand that. I think deep down we understand it's not going to be fair all the time. We've looked at some ideas like, for instance, words have meaning, so we need to be careful what we say. We can't change history. We can't go back and unsay or undo the things that we do. And we talked about how choices have consequences, and it hurts to learn things the hard way. And so the last couple of these I want to talk about that are irrefutable facts, ungetoverable facts. The last one, or second to last here, is that things change. There are some things that do not change, but one thing that does not change is that things will change. And so just when you think you have life figured out, it usually throws you a curveball. The fact is that life is unpredictable and things change all the time. We may be expecting our lives to go one way, but sometimes they end up going a completely different way. Perhaps this isn't illustrated any better than it is in Ecclesiastes 3. There, verses 1 through 8, remember, Solomon writes, "To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck what is planted, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance, a time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to gain, a time to lose, a time to keep, a time to throw away, a time to tear, a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace." And so we see how life just kind of goes this way and that way. Circumstances change, things happen to us that are beyond our control. And so we need to understand that every time we get things figured out, life goes and throws that curveball. But one thing does not change, and that is God's Word. And our ability to understand God's Word. We can read in God's Word how certain things were addressed especially in the New Testament letters. And now those things may or may not apply directly to us. Their circumstances, they lived under different circumstances than we do. But when we look at the principles that are being taught, we can take those and then apply them back to ourselves. And so God's Word never changes. Understanding that living things change will lower our expectation for an unpredictable future and prepare us to deal with things according to God's Word. And then the last thing is, everybody dies. Everyone dies in the end. It's been said there are two certainties in life, death and taxes. Or as I read in a Louis L'Amour book once, the only thing that we know about life is that we're not going to get out of it alive. And so this is the most unavoidable truth, is that everyone dies. There are some that think, through medical science we can prolong life indefinitely, but, there's really not much chance of that ever happening. And so the Bible tells us that everyone is going to die. Hebrews 9 and verse 27 makes it very clear that you and I, each and every person that has ever lived or ever will live, with the exception of those who are living when he returns, have an appointment, as it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this the judgments. If we understand that everyone dies, then we will seek to prepare ourselves for death as well. We need to be understanding that we as individual people could be dead tomorrow. We just don't know what might happen. I may get in my car and get on the highway and get hit by a semi-trailer and be killed instantly. How am I living my life now? We need to consider that as we go through life. That our life is not forever. But things change, and our life may end. So we need to live ready to meet that appointment. These are just some of the things in life that are ungetoverable. Death is certain.